This is the earliest world map of flat Earth from 1587, a 60-sheet extraordinary world map. It was made in 1587 by Urbino Monte. It's recently been added to the David Rumsey Map Collection at Stanford University. At 100-foot square, this map or planisphere is the largest in the world, or to better say, the largest known early map of the world. And it was drawn out by Monte in Milano, Italy. Only one other manuscript copy exists of it. Seeing this 60-sheet map finally unified together as Monte wanted it to is a big deal, because up until now it was so big it could not be put together, so they were all like maps in different sheets. But now this huge planisphere is finally together and being shown off, as it was intended to be. This map was not only made as a geographical tool, but it also showed climate, customs lengths of days, distances between regions. In other words, it's a scientific planisphere, and the fact that they drew it out as a flat Earth tells you a lot. To be able to connect all of the panels together of this map, they made this huge wooden sheet that's about 10 feet tall. It revolves around a central pivot or pin through the North Pole. If you study the map carefully, you're going to notice a clear Northwest Ocean path route to both American coasts and also someplace else that's not specified. Just 500 years ago, this was a marine route. It's very plausible that the Tartarians, being navigators as they were, used that route. So what if they inherited old empire technology that employed atmospheric etheric energy, AEE? That would allow them to set up house wherever they landed. And on this detailed map, you're going to see the meeting place of the Tartarians with the Knight Templars. So if the Knight Templars are real, how can the Tartarians not be if it's clearly written on this important planisphere map? It shows that there are griffins, centaurs, flying turtles and unicorns, and other exotic animals. Now we have to understand that when people were hand drawing out maps back in the day, they weren't adding what their imagination created. They were adding the stories that literal sailors would tell them. For example, when Christopher Columbus was heading towards the Americas, he saw mermaids. You know what he did? He wrote it down in his captain's journal. This map is an accurate depiction of a flat Earth of 1587.
I don't believe that the elite hoard money because they love money. It doesn't take billions of dollars to live luxuriously. At a certain point, you have everything. You don't need billions more. To me, it's all about treating us like a frog in boiling water. They slowly turn the temperature up on us so that we don't revolt, because we don't notice that the water is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. They've been getting us ready for the new order for a long time. They're keeping us poor so that we're so exhausted that when they start rolling out things that make things easier, we're just going to accept it because it's going to feel like relief. They're hoarding the money not only to keep us in distress, but I believe to build their new infrastructures and whatever they plan to do with it, whether that be put us all out of jobs and give us a base income because AI is doing everything. I don't know what it's going to be, but I just have a really hard time believing that they do all of this just so that they could have a gold toilet at their house. It's never been about the money. It's about keeping us desperate.
Everything that you've been taught about space might not be as it seems. For starters, how does the Earth's atmosphere stay intact next to the supposed vacuum of space without some kind of physical barrier? It defies logic. And what about the International Space Station? There are tons of inconsistencies in their footage. Wires, glitches, and physics that don't add up. Let's not forget about the moon landing. Shadows going in multiple directions and missing blast craters. Even the official space photos always exclude the stars. Why is that? And here's the kicker. Trillions of dollars have been poured into space exploration. Yet what do we really have to show for it? It's time to ask the hard questions, ladies and gentlemen. Is space exploration a reality or just a really expensive story?
The Bible says that every eye shall see Jesus returning. So when he returns, every eye will see him returning. Remember, he's not going to come back and it's 2 o'clock in America and he's going to say, hold on, just wait. And at 6 o'clock in China, I'm going to come back to them too. And then at 8 o'clock in New Zealand, I'm going to come back to them too. No, it's only one Jesus and he's coming back one time. Every eye shall see and every tongue will confess. He's coming on the clouds. The sky will crack open. He's coming back. Okay? And he's coming back one time. And if there's only one Jesus and every eye will see him at the same time, you can't tell me that he'll be at the North Pole and the South Pole at the same time because he's 2 Jesuses. He's one Jesus, which means everything has to be flat in order for him to appear to every single person at the same time. So it has to be flat, and let's not talk about the firmament at the time because obviously a flat dome-like structure, firmament, him coming, you can see everything there. But bro, the fact that Jesus is coming back and every eye will see him, in order for him to come back and every eye to see him at the same time, the earth cannot be a globe.
The earth is flat. All right, man. Is that what you want to see? Is that what you want to see? Somebody told me to get glasses. Or no, get a better camera. Well, that's in focus. Let's go back out of focus. There you go.
See, a lot of people say that, but like, observation is only the first step of the scientific method, right? Like, it's not actual science. It's just, you're just looking at something and making an assumption. Like, that's fair to do, right? It's fair to look at something and make an observation and make a theory about why that thing is or why it's doing something, right? Like, that is the first steps of the scientific experiment, but you actually have to perform, or the scientific method, but you actually have to perform an experiment, right? To prove it. And the thing about the celestial bodies, if that's what you're invoking, is that you can't really apply the scientific method to anything on those because you can't really apply control independent and dependent variables. So you can't really do anything scientific with like the star, the sun, the stars, the sun, the moon, etc. So we can work with real science here on Earth, which is what I think we should be doing. But I think a lot of people just look at the sky and they're like, hey, that's a lot of lights. We must be in a vast, never-ending solar system, Milky Way, cosmos, spinning and twirling, and everything's upside down or sideways, and it doesn't seem to affect us here on Earth at all, and we're moving at a bunch of ridiculous speeds. I could go on and on and on. However, like, there's really nothing, like, semantically speaking, there's no actual science involved in that, right? Like, it's all just theoretical. So what can we do? Applying the scientific method here on Earth to determine that the Earth is in motion, that it curves, or that it's moving at all.
You see, this is what happens when you do not use a fisheye lens. The truth comes out. Earth is flat.
Mention of the firmament was in old newspapers, old encyclopedias, and thousands of Shmiaye documents, which I'm working on a video for, but there are so many documents it's taking me forever. It'll probably end up going on my YouTube, which is the exact same username as I have here, if you'd like to see it when it goes up.
Encyclopedia Britannicas in the public libraries before 1958. We're going to flip to the Antarctica and see what the Encyclopedia Britannica from 1958, before the Antarctic Treaty, says is there. Now, you won't find this in the new encyclopedias because the government's banned them. When they return to New Zealand, these flights prove the inland areas to be features of the character with a dome 13,000 feet high at about latitude 80 degrees south, longitude 90 degrees.
The newspaper is super interesting because it's right in the time frame of when they started transitioning to the globe, right around the time of NASA's inception. So a lot of newspaper articles and books had firmament and globe in the same instance.
Display of the aurora borealis sweeps northwestern skies. This right here, which I thought was interesting. For the capricious flickerings in the firmament played hob with wireless and cable connections practically around the globe and disrupted radio and telegraph services.
I've also been dissecting a document from the three-letter agency from the 40s or 50s, I believe, where they talk about how the Soviets were lining the firmament with mirrors and using a radio telescope, I think it was, to like bounce things off of the firmament, and they make it so clear that it's flat. So stay tuned for that too. TikTok, this is for entertainment purposes only. I just got done rewatching this movie. I watched it like the day it came out, and I just wanted to see if there was any like truth in plain sight type of things in it. And when they're trying to figure out why the grid went down or like who did it, the little girl comes around the corner and she's wearing a NASA shirt. And I feel like they make it very known that it's a NASA shirt, like they zoom in a little bit. But then right after that, they started talking about how they didn't have cell service or internet because the satellites were down. We don't get cell service or internet from satellites. It's undersea cables and cell towers. If anybody wants to try to argue in the comments, you're going to be arguing alone, because you can do a simple search and find this information. It's the truth. So now I'm wondering if that's like part of their plan, or like what that was about. Like, why would they even mention that?
They tell us right to our face that there are no satellites in space. All so-called satellite communication is based on undersea cables, towers, and computer network.
GH, why are you telling me this? Did your neighbor say something to you?
No, he wasn't home. But he has a satellite phone I thought could help us. I tried to use it, but it didn't work even though it had enough juice. Now the whole point of a satellite phone is that you always have a signal if you have a clear view of the sky, which I did. The only reason why it wouldn't work is if our satellites got knocked out of commission.
Our satellites. You think something happened to our satellites? The ones in space?
The satellites are networked to computers down here.
The satellites are networked to computers down here. The satellites are networked to computers down here.
Never know what's going to happen. This baby fell out of the sky and landed in our yard. It's never boring on the Welke farm. Thank God there's no horses out, or it didn't hit the house. And it's still going and flashing.
The two main reasons the Nikon P900 was discontinued. Nikon, which is a pioneering Japanese image brand, has decided to scrap off its Nikon Coolpix P900 digital camera. The company may have done so in order to filter its old products and make room for more editions. I'm here to tell you that's a lie. And there's two massive reasons as to why they discontinued the P900 camera. Here's a set of images the P900 camera can view from your own home of the stars in our sky. And here's an example of what NASA tells us the stars looks like. Are you getting my drift? These cameras make us see further than our eyes can see. With our advancing technology, NASA and the bigger companies have realised that this is one of our ways of seeing complete truth. So the first reason that this was discontinued was the fact that if we look into the sky, we can see different to what NASA tells us. Now the next reason being the horizon. I was going to attach a video to this, but honestly the feedback I've had before, the non-believers can't even believe it with the truth of a video. They really say that, have you done this for yourself? Well, yes, I have. And I advise anyone who is watching this video to get any camera with a good zoom or a telescope and head over to the sea. Wait for the sun to go down and wait for that ship to disappear for hours. And once that's disappeared for hours over the horizon, take your zoom and zoom in on that sea. And I truly promise you, astonishingly, the sun will appear back in the sky and you'll be able to see waves hitting that boat. This is one of the biggest phenomenons that our flat realm is proving to ourselves without the research of billion-dollar lies. You can grab one of these from your own home and prove so much that they have lied about. But I'd hurry up because they're clearly doing a big job to try and remove this device from the world.
How does air pressure exist if it's not in a container? Let's think about that for a second. We're told the Earth is surrounded by a vacuum of space, but air pressure can't exist without a container, or we wouldn't need these, right? Take a balloon for example. The air inside only stays pressurized because the balloon holds it in. Remove the container and the air disperses instantly. So if the Earth is surrounded by an infinite vacuum, where is the container? What's holding our atmosphere in? Gravity? That's what they tell us. But does gravity even make sense when you really break it down? Even the Bible in Genesis 1:6-8 speaks of a firmament which divides the waters above from the waters below. Could the firmament be the boundary, the container, keeping our atmosphere in place? It's worth questioning, don't you think? Does it align with observable reality or the narrative that we've been fed?
The Flat Earth map dates back over 1,000 years. This map is credited to being created by a Persian astronomer. His name was Al-Biruni and he lived between 973 AD to 1048 AD. It's the official map of the United Nations and also the United States Geological Survey. It used to be present in many places before the creation of NASA and the Antarctic Treaty in 1959. Here you see it with Admiral Byrd. This map has been restored by Dmitry from Russia with suggestions of mine, Eddie Alenkar. Known by my YouTube channel Flat Earth Banjo, I asked Dmitry to include the Bermuda Triangle and Point Nemo, a place deep in the Pacific where NASA buries rockets. Then Robert Tozzi, a professional mapmaker, came along and enhanced the map even more. There are many people now selling this map online, but if you could order it from my online store, I would greatly appreciate it. Visit my online store now and order one of the items. I humbly thank you.